Hello my dear students, welcome back to the another session of Java programming language class. So the previous class we already discussed the introduction to Java and the brief history about the Java, who implemented, who developed the Java, where it has to be used, that and all we already explained in the class, and basic features too. So today this class we are going to learn about the basic features of Java programming language, how the Java programming language will be working in the system, which are the 11 softwares and what are the major translators we are using apart from the Java programming. These all we are going to explain in this class. Okay, let me come back our topic, the features of object-oriented programming language. So already two features we already explained in the previous classes. The first feature will be Java is a object-oriented programming language. So what do you mean by object-oriented programming? So the previous classes many times we explained. So once again I'll say object-oriented programming means the programming language which is moving forward based on the object. So kinds of languages will be there, but object-oriented is a special type of language because the programming will be moving they are doing based on the object. So number of objects will be combining it together, it will be formed as a one software. So that will be developing by object oriented programming language. So if you are using object oriented programming language, definitely we are using, we are considering a particular object. So we can tell the Java is a complete object oriented programming language. That means the entire program will be working based on different types of objects. So number of objects will be there. So one by one we are considering. So moreover we can tell all the object based it will be moving. So that's why the Java is called as a complete object oriented programming language. The next feature will be Java, it will be considered, that means Java will be working based on both compiler and interpreter. So what is compiler and what is interpreter? So the previous class of brief explanation I have given. So once again I will give. So compiler and interpreter, it's a type of language translators. So what is the use of translator? To translating one form to another form. For that purpose only we are using the translator. For example, whenever we are going to outside or other states or other country, if you don't know the language, what we will do? We will depend on one person. That means their native person will be there. With the help of that person, we are translating our language to their language. So that means the translator will be staying the middle or just like a mediator, translating one form of content to another form. So that is the use of translator. So the computer programming language also they need the translator. In computer, translator will be working automatically. Okay. So compiler and interpreter is a type of language translators only. So majorly we can say three type of language translators in the system. So that is the first, apart from the low level language we are using assembler. It's apart from the assembly language. Assembly language is always belongs to the low level programming language. Okay. The next group will be compiler and interpreter. So compiler and interpreter it's a type of high level programming language translator. It's always apart from the high level section, and this compiler and interpreter it is having their own group will be there. So compiler is always using with the structured programming language or procedural oriented programming language, and also and interpreter will be always using apart from the object oriented programming language. Okay, so these classifications will be there. Then why the Java is using both compiler and interpreter together? So to compare with other programming language or many type of object oriented programming languages will be there, like C++ is a object oriented programming language, when Visual Basic is object oriented programming language, or C# is a object oriented programming language. So these are some example for the object oriented programming language. To compare with the Java, this all the language at a time they are using only one language translator, that is called as compiler. That is called as compiler. So what is actually the compiler, what they are doing in the programming language or apart from the programming language, they are translating the user entry to the computer understanding format. So that is their duty. Then how it will be working? Then how we are going to install the compiler and interpreter? So no need to install separately. So which are the operating systems you are using in your system? Apart from language translator will be coming. That means whenever we are going to install any kind of operating system or OS in your system, the OS will be providing the language translators, either interpreter or compiler or assembler. That is automatically it will be installing in our system. Then when it will be working? It is working whenever we are installing or whenever we are started to using any programming language software. By the time the compiler or interpreter will be get activate and work it. For example, if you are using the Java programming software, that is a Blue Java software or Sun Java software, any kind of Java software, if you open the Java software, we will get the interface. The programming interface we will get it. There we are going to type our code or source code or programming statements. Then after completion of typing the statement, we are going to compile or interpret the given code. So what is the use of compiling and interpreting the command or statement? The compiler actually two kind of tasks they are doing. So what are the two kind of tasks? Both compiler and interpreter or any kind of language translator, they are converting the user source code to the machine understanding format. It's a binary format. And also while converting, they are doing the debugging also. So what do you mean by debugging? So debugging means correcting the mistakes, correction. So while typing, sometimes may or may not be, the mistakes will be happening. So what are the mistakes while typing? We are not bothering about that is. So after completion of typing, we are giving to the compiling option. While compilation, the program controller, it's a hidden controller software. So the program controller will tell us to correct the given statement. The third statement is having some mistake. You have to correct it. After correcting the particular statement only, the compiler will be converting the given code to the machine understanding format. So that's why we are saying the compiler and interpreter will be doing two tasks at a time. So which are the two tasks? First, they are, while giving the compiler or interpreting work, they are first they have to check the given statements or given program is having any mistakes or not. If the mistakes will be there, they are unable to compile it. Okay. So first the user should be find the mistake and recover the mistake. Okay. Then only they can compile it. Then we have to, they will clearly give the suggestion, the particular line, particular column or row having error. This is the error. So error also they will clearly mention. You just to go through the error and correct it. After correcting the error, the given statement converting to the machine understanding format by the compiler. Okay. Then after compilation only the program will be executing. So that is working will be both compiler and interpreter will be almost same, but some slight difference will be there later. So this is the use of compiler and interpreter. Then Java programming. Why the Java programming is using both compiler and interpreter at a time? Because Java is, we already know, platform independent language. Any kind of platform they can use it. That is the relevant platforms like Java. We are using the first class. We already said Java programming is used to both application development and both web designing. So we are telling it's applets and application. Applet means web designing or a web-based browser creation. That means Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox. This kind of browser development they are using the Java. So this web-based browser is called as applets. So application means the user will be, so some kind of some users will be creating their own softwares, that is called as applications. So Java is used both web designing and also application developing. The same time they need to use compiler and interpreter, isn't it? So that's why we are telling Java is using same time at the same time compiler as well as interpreter. So that is the second feature of the object-oriented programming concept like Java features. So the next point will be the data access from local systems and internet. So while doing the programming, so sometimes we need the data. That's so actually we already said, we already know Java programming is used to both web designing and also application development. So while designing a web page or while designing an application, we need different kinds of information. So before going to start the developing, we are gathering the information from the relevant sources. isn't it? Sometimes it is not sufficient for us to develop the software. So what we will do? We will depend on some books or some kind of references. Sometimes we are going to collect the information from our desktop PCs or laptop PCs. Sometimes we are depending on the internet too, isn't it? So all the programming language is not providing this kind of facility. Only the Java programming will be allowing this facility. That means they are allowing to get the data from both the sides, local systems and also the internet. So both the data they will be accepting. That means while developing the software or while developing the web page, the data can be accessing from the local system and also the internet sources. So the next features will be it's written in a classes. That means the Java programming is always writing inside the classes. So classes and object we already explained in the previous classes, third or fourth classes we already explained. So what is class? Class is a group of section. It is having number of member functions and data members. So member functions means what are the works or what are the tasks we are doing inside the particular group. So that is known as a member functions. So here sometimes it will be calculation or entering data or formatting data. So whatsoever it is. Okay. So this work it will be, sometimes it will be group. So for example, one class, student one class. So when the student will be entering in the classroom, so number of students are there. So each student is having their own categories will be there. That is adding a student. So to add the number of students in a particular class, then give the attendance to the particular class. So number of subjects will be there, number of teachers will be there. So many processing will be there in a one particular class. Each processing will be considering as a functions. So we can tell class is a group of functions or group of variables. So always the Java programming will be writing inside the class, because Java is a complete object oriented programming language. That is the reason. Okay. So always the object oriented, all the type of object oriented programming language will be writing inside the class. That means that they are writing the program based on the classes and object only. So that's it. Always the Java programming will be writing inside one particular. So more than one classes we can use at a time, but at least one class you should be used in a one particular program developing. Okay. So the next point will be it can create applets and applications. So Java programming is used to create the applets and applications. So applet means it's a new word, but it is related to IT terms or information technology or digital word. So the word meaning means we can give the explanation. So web page. So user created web page, a web based browser is known as a applets. The textbook it will be clearly mentioned. So web based browsers is known as a applets, or web page, websites or web browser. This all will be we can consider as a applets. Okay, so web related all the part, that is applet. So application means that is created by the user. So by using the programming statement, Java programming statements will be there. So by using the programming statement, they are creating their own softwares. So software means it is a group of statements or group of commands or functions will be combining it together. It will be implementing somewhere else. So that is a software. So each software will be considering as a one application. So system software and application softwares will be there. So this application software will be developing by the use of Java programming. So moreover we can tell Java program is used to develop both applets and application softwares. So that is another feature of Java programming. The next will be unlike C++. Unlike C++, it doesn't need to refer the preprocessor directives. So what do you mean by preprocessor directives? So C++ is a programming language. It's an object-oriented programming language. The same time we can tell Java also an object-oriented programming language. Then we are telling unlike C++, Java doesn't need to refer the preprocessor directives. So before that explain this concept. What do you mean by preprocessor directives? So preprocessor directive is the name itself giving the meaning pre-processing. So what do you mean by pre-processing? Before processing. So before processing means before processing the given statement or given program, we need to access some other kind of commands or supporting files from some other sources. So that is called as a preprocessor directive. So preprocessor directives, these files directly we are or the user unable to access it. With the help of some link they have to give it. So that link is known as a preprocessor directive. The example for the preprocessor directives will be different kinds of library files or header files, or so these all header files and library files are some supporting or auxiliary files will be there. So example for the library files will be, for example, in the C++. So we already know computer programming completely 95% of mathematical problem solving we are using. So like algebraic format or quadratic equations or trigonometric functions. So these all will be mathematical related only. Okay. So if you wanted to solve the mathematical problem, we need the formulas or equations. For example, quadratic equation b square minus 4ac. So that is the one formula. This formula directly we are unable to apply to the program. So we can apply the statement. So how the program will be working, that execution method, how the formula will be executing, that you cannot give it. So that already used in the one particular library, isn't it? So that library you should be open and give the reference to the programmer, then only they can access and execute the program. So that is not applicable to the Java programming. Only for C programming or C++ programming they are mentioning. So C++ programming is having such a rich set of library functions and files will be there. So this will be directly not able to access it. For example, square root of one value. So square root of a value means we already know it's a root symbol we need. Inside that which number square root you wanted to find it, that and all you have to mention like that. So 25. So if you give root 25 means we already know its answer will be 5. But computer doesn't know the answer will be 5. That should be processed by the program controller. So by using the C++ programming language, that is directly unable to find it. So that you need the relevant function, it is also called as SQRT function, square root function, the short form they are using. This square root function directly we are unable to access, that will be providing by the system library, isn't it? So that system library you have to open it and connect it to our program. So after connecting, that will be linked with our program. So while executing the program, the connected file should be open and the relevant command will be executing, isn't it? So that you have to give before starting the program. It means the starting part of the program you should be give it. So that is called as preprocessor directives, isn't it? So that means some kind of files or some kind of commands or functions or mathematical functions or character based or text based or whatsoever, directly we are unable to access. So we need some supporting file or helping file. So that will be given by library files. So that directly it is not possible to access. So that we are giving the link. So that link will be mentioned before starting the program. That means that the program software we are opening now. So there first itself we have to mention how the example will be hash include angle bracket stdio.h. So this is one example for the preprocessor directive. Hash include stdio.h. So stdio.h means standard input and output function. So input command or output command we are unable to access, so that we are using this preprocessor directive. So this preprocessor directive we have to define first itself. That before starting the program itself you have to define it. So after compiling and after completion of typing source code we are giving to the compiling. While compiling, the compiler first goes to the preprocessor section, that should be open the file. After opening the given link they are providing to the programmer, then the program will be smoothly working. Okay, so that is called as preprocessor directive. So that is C++ programming. So we can come back to the Java programming. Java programming language, or while doing the Java programming, everything will be they are given to the public. Directly the user can able to access all the kind of supporting files without using any preprocessor concept. That means no need to define any preprocessor link before starting the program. Directly we can write the Java programming. So while giving the Java extension itself, they are accessing or they are allowed to access all the type of file from its library. So that's why it is called, it is telling, unlike C++, it doesn't need to or it doesn't require preprocessor directive. The last point will be, it it's a case sensitive language. So Java is a case sensitive programming language. So Java, C programming language, C++ programming language, Java programming, these three programming language we can consider as a case sensitive programming language. So what do you mean by case sensitive language? Both uppercase and lowercase distinguished by the language. That means uppercase and lowercase will be recognized by differently, isn't it? That while conversion, binary conversion first class I explained, I think so. Okay, how it will be? So we can consider the A. So whenever we are going to, when you input capital A, so that we already know it's a capital letter A. So again you type the small letter A. So any difference will be there in the capital A and small letter A. So we are pronouncing both will be A only. That is, for us it will both are same only, but the both will be written in a different case, like capital letter or small letter. So for us both, if you write APPLE apple, small letter, that is also right, apple only we are pronouncing. So if you are writing in a APPLE apple, it's a capital letter, that is also a apple only, but both will be same we are considering. But the same word computer will be, or this programming language will be recognizing differently. Why? Because each and every alphabet letter is having their own relevant numerical value will be there. So this numerical value is known as a ASCII. Okay, so this ASCII value will be different for each and every letters. For example, the capital letter A ASCII value will be 65, small letter ASCII value will be 97. You just see the difference. Both are decimal value only, but also the number will be different. So the computer compiler or interpreter will be considering this 65 and 97. Both are different. So this difference is known as a case sensitive. So Java is a case sensitive programming language. It means both uppercase and lowercase will be recognizing differently or distinguishing by the language differently. So this is called as case sensitive format. Thank you.